Hello, I'm George Hoge, and I have another Business English Conversation video lesson for you today. You'll recall the last lesson we talked about job description. It's kind of aimed more at the manager advertising a job and, of course, a prospective person looking for a job. We talked about the necessity to have job title, responsibilities, the cultural fits, the required skills, salary, benefits, and all that stuff. Now today I want to talk about some important documents that should be in place once you get the job, or as a manager once you've hired a person. There's three primary documents that I think are important, and most large companies have these. Not all your medium and small companies, but I'm going to suggest that something along the lines of these three documents is important in every company and every job. For starters, well, let me tell you, the three that I'm talking about is a position description, a performance plan, and possibly a development plan. So let's start with a position description. Position description is a document that basically tells what the expectation is in the position that a person is in within the company. And I'm not talking specifically about a function like marketing or sales or accounting or administration. I'm talking more broadly. Position description really coincides in a lot of big companies with salary levels or ranges. So what's in a position description? Well, what's the education level required for this position? What's the skills or skill level required? What are the experience levels, or what experience is required in this position? And again, when I'm talking about the experience level, the performance, education, experience, all of that, I'm talking about, let's put some titles on it. And this could be a sales rep, an administrator, somebody in the manufacturing area, human resources. Doesn't make any difference what it is. But there may be different titles within each function, such as a trainee, entry-level position, an assistant, an associate, an analyst, a team leader, a senior. Now each one of those, starting with the first one, and moving forward, requires a bit more experience, should require some additional or more high-level skills, and may in fact require more education. And it's not uncommon to have, I'll pick salespeople, sales reps, a trainee sales rep, an assistant or an associate sales rep, a just plain sales rep, a team leader sales rep, a senior sales rep. Each one of those levels within a given position or job require a bit more in the way of education, experience, and skills. Okay? And this position description should describe some of the general duties of the position. As an example, either to sell, how many calls to make, what kind of sales to make, door-to-door sales, phone sales, what kind of sales, reports, what kind of reports, how many reports, what detail level. Is the position require analysis of reports or just generating reports? Timeliness of reports, how often and how, of course, accurate should they be? The position description will describe just what is it that this position is expected to handle. Are you expected to make 10 widgets a day or 20 widgets a day? Are you expected to just generate reports or analyze reports and give recommendations? Are you supposed to go with a senior sales rep and assist in selling, or are you on your own and you're out there doing the selling yourself? Those are the kind of things that are in there. Specifically, also as it goes up, the timeliness of activities, and there's usually something that says other duties as assigned. Now, this is just a general description of the position within a given area of the business. And as I said before, it could be administration, it could be sales, it could be HR, it could be manufacturing, accounting, marketing, it could be any of those things. All right, so that sets up what the position is all about. Now, the key thing now for the manager and the employee is to create a performance plan. And this becomes the measurable the document that measures the performance of the employee, of you. Or if you're a manager, well, if you're a manager, you probably have one too. But as managers, you have to develop performance plans for all of your people. Now, it's very important to make sure that performance plans contain objective measurements. None of this subjective stuff, because that just makes it bad for the manager to try to appraise, and it makes it bad for the employee to try to figure out what we're talking about. And I'm talking about subjective things. Communicates well with peers. Well, how do you measure that? If the manager insists on having something like that in there, I'm just going to suggest to you, ask them specifically, how are you going to measure those kind of things? If they're talking about accuracy of reports, timeliness of reports, accuracy of documents, accuracy of sales calls, and so on and so forth, those are pretty easy to measure. I mean, those are objective measurements. As a manager, I'm going to suggest to you, try to get all of that subjective stuff out of there, because it's going to be a problem for you come evaluation time, and it's going to be a problem for the employees. So another thing, that don't put development items in a performance plan. Don't measure somebody on development unless you're talking about specific training that is required for a specific level to accomplish the job that they're in. In other words, if a person comes in, requires 2 years of college, let's say, but the manager takes a chance and hires somebody who's only got a high school education, or maybe a high school education plus a few credits in college. They want to take a chance on this person. Well, part of their performance plan might be to finish your education within X period of time. And that's measurable. If it's not for the employee's future, there's another document we can use for that. The next one we're going to talk about, the development plan. Performance evaluation, the performance plan should have levels of attainment. Met the requirements, exceeded the requirements, consistently exceeded requirements, always exceeded requirements. There's your top 4 right there. And then the bottom one, did not meet requirements. That's a subject for later on down the road. Performance plan, managers, employees, thing ought to be reviewed every 3 months. So the manager employee should sit down and review, where are we? How am I doing? Am I meeting, exceeding? Manager, what's my evaluation right now? And that's just a formal conversation, but nothing's written down other than the fact that it was reviewed. The formal evaluation should take place at least once a year, because this is the one that's probably keyed in to salary. You're going to give a raise. You're not going to give a raise to that person that's not meeting requirements. If you're going to give a raise, you're probably going to give more to that person that's exceeding constantly or always exceeding requirements versus the one that just meets the requirements. In terms of developing this performance plan, the trend these days seems to be to have employees create the performance plan. I'm not a big advocate of that. That's the manager's responsibility. Some input from the employee, sure, to a limited degree, but that's the manager's responsibility. They know the job, or they should know the job, and they know what they expect. Now, the input from the employee becomes a discussion of, well, that's not what the position says. You're asking me to do things that require skills that I don't have. So let's change that a little bit. Okay? Bottom line to the whole process is for the manager, be objective, be fair, and communicate both the good and the bad in terms of the employee's performance on a regular basis. From the employee standpoint, do your job in a superior manner. Ask if you don't understand. If you don't understand something, ask. There's nothing wrong with not knowing something. What's wrong is not finding out the answer. If you don't know how to do something, find out. Ask your manager. If your manager can't help you, ask your manager to tell you who can. And finally, for the employee, be honest with yourself, particularly when it comes time to the performance evaluation. Don't bounce around thinking you're a top performer when, down here, you're really not. You should go into that thing without any surprises. And that's a matter of communication for the whole process, from day one to time the formal evaluation yearly, that you're communicating. So both the manager and the employee know where we stand. The final item that is probably appropriate is a development plan. Now, this should mostly be employee input. This is what the employee wants to do to improve their skills, improve their education, to move up those levels of positions and get promotions and, of course, more money. And we're talking here about specific training and experience to improve skills and knowledge. It's aimed at the employee advancing in the company. Again, it should be reviewed on a quarterly basis, every 3 months. I think this development plan is primarily the employee's responsibility. Now, the manager can provide input as to what he or she may think the employee should work on. But in the end, it's the employee's responsibility. If you don't want a development plan and don't plan on doing anything more than what you're doing today and don't want to increase your skills, don't want to do your education, you don't need a development plan. And this is not an evaluation process. Managers don't evaluate somebody on a development plan. All they do is tell them what they see, what's happened, and what kind of progress the employee's making on that plan. Should not affect job performance, should not affect salary, anything like that. This is what the employee and the manager together think the employee needs to improve and their lot in life and in their business. In this whole process, the manager's a coach, manager's a guide, the manager's the cheerleader. Okay? Again, as an employee, do your job in a superior manner. Ask if you don't know. Be honest with yourself. Take some time to devote to that development plan, to those items that are in that development plan. And managers, be objective, be fair, and communicate. So that wraps up the 3 items that I hope all of you have in your job. If you don't, poke around and see if maybe that isn't something that that could be added to your company. It would be of a benefit to both the managers and employees. So until next time, this is George Hoge signing off for Business English Conversation.